Greetings and welcome to the first episode of Oblivion Modding Interviews. This is a new series we're doing where we interview Oblivion modders from around the Oblivion modding community. This is going to be very similar to our Morrowind Modding Interviews series, and we're going to be doing a lot of the same things. We'll be taking your community suggestions about which modders to interview, and we'll also be taking your questions and using them in each interview. Now for our first interview, we have Zaldir, the project lead behind Kvatch Rebuilt, and also one of the level designers at Druid Gameworks. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview.
Thanks for having me.
Now we're going to go ahead and jump right in with our first question, which is when did you first start playing Oblivion and the Elder Scrolls in general?
I started playing Oblivion in 2006 when it first came out, and Morrowind in 2003. Sometimes that year. So yeah, I've been playing since Morrowind basically.
Now, what inspired your forum handle? Is there a particular story behind it?
Well, I was just creating a World of Warcraft character actually, and I just sitting there trying to figure out a name, and it just came to me, and then I started using it. Which, well, later on I've wanted to change it, but it's grown on me, so I still use it.
Now, what was your first mod, and how did you get the idea for it?
My first mod was Benares Manor Remade. I was just doing the quest to rid the that ghost from the manor, and when you got the manor in the end, I was kind of disappointed that the exterior was never fixed up. So I just learned how to mod and fixed the exterior of it, and added a servant later on. But yeah, that was my first mod.
Now, anyway, what draws you to modding video games?
It's the creativity. I like to make things, and well, I like to play video games, and if I can make them more to my preference, that's just perfect. So I like modding to make the game more to my preference and just to create things, because that's what I enjoy doing. That's why I've started modding.
Oh yeah, in a lot of ways, modding gives you the ability to personalize your gameplay experience as much as you want.
Yeah, and that's why the Elder Scrolls is so great for me, because I can just either make mods to make it more to my liking, or download mods to make it more to my liking, and it's just fantastic to be able to do that.
Oh yes, definitely. You can make each playthrough basically unique and entirely your own. And sort of going on to another batch of questions, the original version of Kvatch in Oblivion was kind of disappointing. You'd go in, stop the invasion of Daedra, and close the gates to Oblivion, but after that nothing ever changed. Now, whose idea was it to first start Kvatch Rebuilt, and what was the original scope of the project?
Actually, when it started out, I wasn't part of the team. So I was a beta tester for the original version. And then a few years ago, Ionis, one of the team members, who I actually work with in Druid Gameworks as well, came to me, or he said that he didn't have time to work on it anymore, so I offered to take it over. And yeah, since then I've worked on the expansions and now version 3.0. But it started out with just rebuilding the city, basically, and we've added some extra stuff to it later on.
Now, this next question is a user-submitted question from Jala1932 on the Oblivion subreddit. Were there any incomplete Kvatch files, like a quest in vanilla Oblivion, which helped you design Kvatch Rebuilt?
No, there was no Kvatch files at all. It just stopped where it stops in game, basically.
That honestly seems kind of strange, because where it stops in the game is you still have this party of survivors at the castle, and they just stay there the entire time.
It's very odd. It looks like Bethesda wanted to do more, but they didn't have the time to do it, because they just stay at the castle. There's nothing more that happens, and the fires are still burning, and yeah, it's kind of odd, really.
Now, how long has it taken you to make Kvatch Rebuilt? Obviously, you guys have been working on it for years now, and are still working on it, but do you foresee a point when Kvatch Rebuilt will be finished?
Yeah, it's been in the works since 2006, and I've been working a bit on and off on it, mostly off, really. And I kind of lost interest in the mod because of the time I've spent on it. So I just want to finish it and complete the pre-invasion city, and that would be the final release apart from bug fixes. So it shouldn't be too long if I manage to find the time and will to finish it.
Sort of speaking of the pre-invasion city, how many features will this pre-invasion city have, and will it have a lot of quests or other activities? And will it feature any of the crazy characters from Kazrid's amazing prequel webcomic, which takes place in pre-invasion Kvatch?
Mostly we're planning to have just the AI and interiors and stuff like that, and just a few interesting characters like Saint Jib, and Martin will be there as as a priest, and Count Goldwine with his little Daedric secret that there's a hint to in the mod. There will be a few quests, most likely, and well, I hadn't really heard about the prequel webcomic until I saw the question. So I've looked into it now, and yeah, the update will definitely feature some of the characters and stuff from the prequel webcomic, definitely.
Well, that's good to hear, and I was just kind of surprised to hear that you guys were actually making a pre-invasion city as well as the sort of rebuilt city afterwards, because it seems like a lot of work. You have to basically build two different cities that are in the same location.
Yeah, well, actually, the rebuilding process, it means that the city had to be built 4 times. 4 times I had to build a different city. So now it will be a 5th one, basically. So it's some work. You have to do a lot of AI and interiors, but it's okay. It's not too much. The biggest hurdle is probably the quests and voice acting for it.
Well, that sort of brings me to my next question. For someone like me, coming from the Morrowind modding community, I imagine the biggest hurdle in quest design for an Oblivion mod like Kvatch Rebuilt would be all of that voice acting. Would you say that voice acting is the most difficult aspect of making quests for Oblivion, or would you say it's something else?
It may not be the most difficult aspect, but it's definitely the most time-consuming one. Like, you have to first find the voice actors, and then filter it to get the ones that actually fit, and then you have to wait for the voice actors to finish their lines, which can take a lot of time, and sometimes they come to you after a few months of waiting and say that, sorry, I can't finish it, and then you have to start over again. So it's a time-consuming process, but I enjoyed parts of it quite a lot, like when Matthew Wade, the one who voices the Ear and Savli and Madius, and quite a lot of other characters. Like, he has such a great voice, so it was just a pleasure to work with. So it's not the most difficult, but the most time-consuming. But I have to say that I enjoy Morrowind dialogue more, because you have so much more freedom, since you don't have to have voice acting. Or it's not something people expect, at least.
Oh yes, with Morrowind mods, you actually can still have voice acting. There's a few mods out there that do that, and it's always, sort of interesting to run into them. But I was sort of curious, with Oblivion, is there like a character limit that you have to record segments of dialogue in? I know of Skyrim that Trainwiz mentioned in his interview that it was something like a 128 character limit per, a dialogue spiel in order to fit it into the game's dialogue system.
Yeah, I think it's 255 characters, and but you can split it up. It's not really a big issue. And for the voice actors, you can just have them record the entire dialogue and then split it up yourself. But yeah, it's annoying sometimes, especially if you have a dialogue that barely doesn't come into that limit, so you have to split it up into two. But it's not a big issue.
Oh yeah, and Morrowind sort of has the same problem when it's a 512 character limit, and that's completely text-based. Sometimes you have to split up your dialogue anyway.
Yeah, like you have to click continue and stuff like that, yeah.
Now, sort of moving on to another Oblivion modding question. You made the winning entry in the 2.5 millionth member modding competition on the Nexus back in 2011 with your mod Reclaiming the Nexus. But as far as I know, that was the last modding competition that Nexus Mods ever hosted. Has there been any discussions about bringing competitions back to the Nexus?
Yeah, me and Uberman won that competition. But after that, there hasn't been any internal discussion about it. We've had some questions from people and stuff like that, but never actually talked about it internally. We now have 9.4 million members, so it would be appropriate to have a competition for the 10th million, I guess. So perhaps when we get a community manager at Nexus Mods, that things will change. That we'll have more competitions, hopefully.
Oh yeah, the Nexus is sort of on a hiring spree right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We have a director of content that just came on, we'll be doing some changes, like the design of Nexus will change, and yeah, it's time to do some changes and evolve, I guess.
It does seem like it's been a little while since really the Nexus website format has changed at all. At least a few years, I think.
Yeah, it's been a few years, and I think the biggest issue right now is the width of the websites, that it doesn't reflect the size of most monitors these days. So I think that will be increased, the width of it, which will make it better to use, and there will be changes to make it easier to use and more functional, which will be awesome to see in the next few weeks or months.
Oh yes, definitely. And sort of moving on to another question. You've made one publicly released mod for Morrowind, More Detailed Places 2013, which is a sort of updated compilation mod of Ragox's earlier individual mods. And I was curious, have you ever thought about making more mods for Morrowind?
Yeah, the More Detailed Places 2013 was... I just saw that Ragox was making More Detailed Places mods, and I wanted to join in, and yeah, he did most of the cities, I did a few, and it was fun. And I really like making mods for Morrowind. It's my favorite Elder Scrolls game. I made another publicly released mod, which is only on my website right now, called the Reekling Tribe, which is just a friendly Reekling tribe on Solstheim. There's one quest, very, very short quest, and a merchant, which I've been wanting to expand on, but never gotten around to do. But I definitely want to make more Morrowind mods, yeah.
Well, perhaps with Mod Town 2015 you'll join in and come up with a few ideas?
Yeah, I want to join. We'll see in the coming weeks if I get the time. I hope I do, because it's a project that I really like the premise of. I really like the old one from 2005. So, yeah. I think I'm going to join in.
Well, that's great to hear, and sort of moving on to another batch of questions, I believe you also work for Druid Gameworks. And for our listeners, those of you who don't know, Druid Gameworks is a game development company that was started by, and is largely staffed by, Elder Scrolls modders. They had the Unwritten Echoes of Twilight Kickstarter campaign a few years ago, And while that didn't really get off the ground so much, Druid Gameworks is now working on Witanlore Dreamtime, an episodic game to be released on Steam. Now, a lot of modders kind of dream about getting into the game development business, so I was wondering, what's it like to work at Druid Gameworks, and in particular, what's it like to work alongside so many other modders from the Elder Scrolls community in a professional environment?
It's great actually to work at Druid Gameworks. It's fun to work there. I work as a level designer, so it's very much similar to the Elder Scrolls modding, how we do it with the level design. And I work with people that I've known for many years, or known about for many years, and people I've looked up to for many years, like Arthmore and Dark Rider and many people who's just done some great mods. And I work along with Ionis from Kvatch Rebuilt, who's also a level designer. So it's great to have a gathering of so many talented modders and working on a game, which has been my dream for many, many years. So it's just, it's amazing.
Alright, you've sort of already answered my next question, and I was going to ask, is working on level design at all similar to making mods for the Elder Scrolls games?
Yeah, like I said, it's very similar. We use the Unreal Engine 4, which is, when it comes to level design, it's very much the same. It's drag and drop, so what you really have to do is just design your levels. There's a few different aspects of it, but mostly it's quite similar, which is very nice. It reduced the learning curve for a level designer. But of course, other things like the programming and stuff like that is very different. So it's mostly the level designers that have this bonus of having it similar to the Elder Scrolls modding.
You know, as someone who isn't quite familiar with the Unreal Engine 4, what programming language does it use exactly?
It uses C, C language. I haven't used it at all, so I wouldn't be able to tell anything about it really. But along with that, it also uses a visual programming technique, which is called Blueprint. So it's mostly just drag and connect boxes which do things. So it's visually based, so designers are able to program basically, which means that level designers can easily get into that aspect as well, which is great.
Sort of moving on to another question, can you tell us a bit about Witanlore Dreamtime and the universe of Unwritten Echoes of Twilight?
Yeah, actually the unwritten part is now gone. It's been changed to Witanlore, so that is the name of the series. It's a fantasy RPG series with a lot of influence from the Elder Scrolls and other RPGs. Of course, since there's so many of us from the Elder Scrolls modding community, it automatically gets some influence from the Elder Scrolls, but we try to make it unique. And in Dreamtime, you play as a ursine, or a humanoid bear. So it's very unique, and it's very player-driven. So there's a lot of choices and consequences, which is all the rage right now. With like you have choices to make, and things in the world change based on the choices you make.
Now, I know Witanlore Dreamtime is going to be episodic, but how big would you say each episode is going to be exactly?
It's hard to say right now, actually. I'll just say that you'll see when we release it. It's hard to compare it to anything right now. But it's big. It's much bigger than we had planned in the beginning, which is good in some aspects, and of course it takes more time, but it's big.
Alright, and I was also kind of curious, Are you guys planning to implement modding tools at all with Witanlore Dreamtime? I know it would be a bit strange with an episodic game to include modding tools. I don't really think anyone's done that before. But would it be something that you guys would do?
Yeah, we definitely want to have modding tools for it. And since Unreal Engine is free now for everyone, that is something that can be accomplished. So yeah, we definitely plan to do that. Perhaps once the entire game is done and we'll release the entire game as one, that will start supporting modding then, which is quite a time ahead, but yeah, we want to do that.
Oh yeah, I was just imagining it would be pretty tricky to implement modding if you're releasing the game in episodes.
Yeah, so when the entire game is done, it's all in one game, so it'll be a lot easier then.
Now, do you have any advice for modders looking to break into the gaming industry or perhaps get a job at Druid Gameworks?
Well, just make the mods you want to make and have a passion for making, and release them and draw on the feedback you get, and work to become better at modding, and eventually you'll be good enough that you'll perhaps see that you have an opportunity in gaming industry, and well, just make contacts, collaborate with people, and later on, perhaps you can form a company of your own and make your own game. And if you want to get a job at Druid Gameworks, just apply. We have a thread on Nexus forums in the mod author section where people can apply. So just get out there and mod and get contacts.
Oh yes, and I think that collaboration aspect is one that should be highlighted, because modding is, to a large degree, about collaborating with one another.
Yeah, it is. If you collaborate, you make bigger things and often better things. And if you want to make games, in most cases, you have to collaborate. So if you have collaborated before, you have some experience in it and are potentially better at collaborating. So it's definitely a bonus to have collaborated on mods if you want to break into the industry.
Going into some more general modding questions, do you do any planning before you start a mod, and if yes, how?
It depends on the mod. Sometimes I like to just jump into it and just plan as I go. But other times I plan ahead very much. Like, I draw maps, I write down everything I want to have in the mod, I write dialogue, anything really, which helps speed up the modding process. But like I said, sometimes I just want to jump into it and see where it leads, which is always interesting.
Now, this next question is another user-submitted question from Reddit, from DuckYouSucker. Are there any mod ideas you had that you did not pursue, and for what reason?
There's a lot, some of which I have forgotten, but Skyrim, I wanted to do a Helgen Rebuilt mod. That's one of the first thing I wanted to do. But when I fired up the creation kit and looked at Helgen, I quickly realized that, looked at Helgen and looked at Papyrus, the scripting language, I quickly realized that this was something that would take a lot of time, and that was something I did not have. So that's one mod I did not pursue. And I also wanted to make kind of port the smithing aspect of Skyrim into Oblivion. I got parts into the mod and had made some progress on it, but some engine limitations and time limitations made me stop pursuing that one. And there's some Morrowind mods, like an Ashlander trading company, which was supposed to compete with the East Empire trading company. I'd made some quests, but decided that it was not something I wanted to pursue. So that's a lot of stuff. which just still lies on my hard drive somewhere that I've just tossed away, basically. Mostly because of time or lack of will to make them, or lack of inspiration to make those mods.
Now, an Ashlander trading company idea, that sounds kind of interesting. Like, I don't know, like Siltstriders out on the Ashlands making trades with the natives. Something like that?
Yeah, that was what a lot of the quests were exactly that. And I'd made some like fetch quests and just general kill those bandits quests and stuff like that, and was starting on more like intrigue quests where you start competing with the East Empire Trading Company. And I don't know why I stopped that particular mod, but I guess it just moved on to the new games and it was forgotten, basically, which is a shame because I wanted to finish that mod and it was interesting to work on.
Oh yeah, that seems to happen a lot with, well, pretty much every mod. I imagine everyone has their fair share of sort of dead projects at this point.
Yeah, it's like you start making it and then you realize you don't want to make it or you don't have time to make it, and that's the nice thing about modding. You can just stop if you don't want to make it. And yeah, that happens a lot, you said. There's a ton of dead mods floating about, and it's a shame, but that's what modding is.
Oh yeah, and sort of moving on to another question. Have you been influenced by any non-Elder Scrolls games when you mod?
Yeah, all the time. All the time whenever I play games, I look at them with modding in mind. So I see a feature and I think, that would be cool to have in Oblivion or Skyrim or Morrowind. And like especially the Witcher series and the Gothic series, the level design and the quests and dialogue, yeah, it has influenced my modding, and I get new ideas from those games.
Now, sort of on a similar note, are there any modders who have inspired or influenced you in some way? And if so, what was it about their work that influenced you?
There's a lot. Whenever I see a new mod or play a new mod, I am influenced or inspired by it. So I use a lot of other people's mods to get inspiration from my own. Especially like when I first started, I had a lot of questions about modding. So Arthmore and Vorians, for instance, have been big influences for me because I asked them questions and they answered me. So that was kind of my stepping stones into modding. And just, yeah, looking at people's stuff and playing their mods, it's all influences.
Now, what modding projects are you currently working on? I know to a certain degree you're still working on Kvatch Rebuilt.
Right now it's actually just Kvatch Rebuilt. I mostly work on the game, so don't have much time for modding. So at the moment it's just Kvatch Rebuilt, and once that is done, I'll see where it leads. Perhaps reclaiming the Nexus Reloaded, which I started working on, which is basically fixing the reclaiming the Nexus mod, because when we made it we didn't have much time, so I wanted to make it a true dungeon delving mod with more story and more dialogue and stuff like that. So I may pick up that again and start working on that.
I'm sort of curious. I sort of missed the Nexus competition when it was going on. Was there a time limit for that?
Yeah, I don't remember quite what the time limit was, but it wasn't that long. So Uberman he had the original ID, and he made the plans and the meshes, and then I just started scripting it and making the AI, and yeah, it wasn't that much time. So, and I'm not that great at scripting, so it's a lot of shortcuts and poor scripting in it, which I've wanted to fix later on.
Now, going on to another user-submitted question. This is a question from Dragonheart on Reddit. What's your favorite character in Oblivion, and do you have a favorite character out of the ones you've made for your mods?
For Oblivion, it has to be Sheogorath. He's just the most fleshed out character and the most interesting one. Oblivion doesn't really have many memorable characters, so he stands out quite a lot. As for my own mods, I think it's Havli and Marius, particularly because he was voiced by Matthew Wade. That's a great voice, and like gave life to the character. He revoiced the original, the vanilla voice, vanilla dialogue as well. So he became a completely new character. So it's him and the heir to Kvatch, which is has a deep story, which is not really fleshed out in the mod, which I've wanted to flesh out. But yeah, Savli and Marius and the heir to Kvatch. Savli and Marius is the god captain in Kvatch, and the one you meet in Kvatch when you're going to stop the invasion and save Martin. He's the one who leads you through the city.
Oh yeah, I don't think he had that much of a story to him, really, the first time around in vanilla Oblivion.
No, it wasn't any story to him at all, really. But in Kvatch Rebuilt, we made him he now runs a tavern in Kvatch, and before the city is rebuilt, he's in charge of the rebuilding. So he has a lot of dialogue and he's basically the hero of Kvatch after the player character. So he has a statue with the player character in the city when it's rebuilt. So it's a very important character, and with the voice of Matthew Wade, he's become a great character.
Going on to a sort of different question. If you could make a single change to the capabilities of the construction kit for Oblivion, what would it be?
Right now, it would be to be able to, on the fly in-game, change the landscape. Because as it stands right now, in Kvatch Rebuilt, we're limited by the landscape because we can't have open cities and we can't have map markers, because if you're gonna have map markers, the landscape has to be the same in the city as it's outside, which kind of limits us. And the weather is also a limit, but we've worked around that. We have a workaround for the landscape as well, but it's a complicated one. So yeah, it's the landscape aspect of the construction set. But Shade Me has fixed the construction set quite a lot with his construction set extender, so it's a good and robust construction set right now, which I think it's okay.
Oh yes, I was kind of envious of the fact that Oblivion has the construction kit extender, because we don't really have anything like that for the construction set in Morrowind, so we're just sort of left out in the cold there.
Yeah, it would be basic to have a construction set extender in Morrowind as well, and Skyrim, of course. Yeah, it fixed a lot of stuff in it, so if he had done it for Morrowind as well, that would be amazing. There's a lot of stuff to fix there as well.
Now, how much do you use the community to get feedback and motivation for your mods?
Quite a lot. I always look at the feedback I get. Every comment I get from my mods, I look at them, and if they give feedback that I agree with, I put it into the mod as soon as I can. And yeah, it's amazing to see the feedback you get when you release a mod, and it's part of why modding is so great. To have you basically collaborate with the community on the mod, which is fantastic. And yeah, modding wouldn't be the same without the community.
Speaking of collaboration, I've noticed that with a lot of your mods, you've worked with a ton of other people. Do you go out with the intention of finding someone to collaborate with when you're planning to make a mod?
Like the mods I've released myself, there hasn't been a lot of collaboration, but like with Reclaiming the Nexus, I've collaborated. More Detailed Places, I've collaborated. Kvatch Rebuilt, I've collaborated. And I also joined the Beyond Skyrim project, which is a lot of collaboration, and there's quite a lot of dead projects that I've started or joined where it was a big team, and I think it's a lot more fun to collaborate with people on mods. You have like the ideas from different people, and you just get more quality, and both quality and quantity when you collaborate with people. But in most of my mods, I've really just used modders' resources. I guess that's a form of collaboration. You use other people's work to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So, yeah, collaboration is a very important element of modding.
Sort of going into that, are there any particular mod resources you like to use in your mods?
I kind of just look at what mod I'm going to make, and then I search around, see if anyone has made things that I need. But actually, like for a lot of my mods, I like to use resources from Mr. Sika. Yeah, Mr. Sika has a lot of interesting resources, like the docks and the whole city. So I use his resources quite a lot. And Stroti, a German resource maker, he releases quite a lot of resources, quality resources. So I use a lot of his resources as well.
Oh yes, I noticed you made that island mod for Stroti.
Yeah, I was looking around for resources, and I stumbled upon Stroti and looked at how many things he had released. So I just wanted to gather all that stuff into one mod, just for myself, really. And when I was done, I just released it, just because, basically. It was interesting to work with, just packing all those stuff in there and making a mod with the intention of using as many of his resources as possible.
Now, is there anything you've had to give up in order to mod, like playing more games or possibly your social life?
Yeah, there's been less of my social life and less gaming after I started modding, definitely. But it's a sacrifice I'm happy with. I enjoy modding so much that it's not really a problem to give up those things. And through modding, I've also met new people, so I get new people to be social with, and it's not really a sacrifice. It's just you have to give up some things to do other things, and that's how it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's whenever I start playing a game, I always start thinking to myself, I could be making a mod right now and probably enjoying myself just as much as if I was playing this game.
Yeah, same here too. I think I could be making a mod, or I could be making a game. So, like when I start playing a game, that's often a thought that occurs, and that makes me enjoy the game a little bit less, because I would rather mod or make a game. But at the same time, I get so much inspiration, and so much inspiration from playing games that it's research, you could call it, as well as entertainment.
Oh yeah, that's a good term, Playing other games is research. It's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, like it's often an excuse for people when you in the game development industry to, if you want to play a game, you just say, "Oh, it's for research," and it's true. So why not?
Oh yes, definitely a good point. And are there any skills that you've learned from modding? And if so, have you been able to use those skills elsewhere? I imagine the answer to this is yes, since we already covered level design at Druid Gameworks.
Yeah, that is one thing I've learned, and I would say collaboration with people have made me better at communicating with people and working together with people, which helps in all sorts of situations. So, and it's that is one of the things I've learned, and of course, self-discipline is something you pick up very early in modding, because often you have to do some boring stuff or repetitive stuff to complete your mod. So you have to have a lot of self-discipline, and that helps in all aspects of life.
Oh yes, definitely. Self-discipline. I mean, a lot of things in modding can be tedious, like laying out the tile set for a dungeon, or cluttering a small house or other interior. And that stuff takes a lot of time, and you just have to sort of power through it.
Yeah, you do. It's like, as you say, interiors. When you're making a ton of interiors, it's not fun. It's something you just have to do. And the same with when you collect files from the voice actors, for instance. You have to rename all the files to... Like, I had to do that in the beginning because I planned very poorly. But so I had to rename all the files to work in game, and sometimes I had to edit the voiceovers because there was some background noise and stuff like that. So tedious work, but it has to be done.
Oh yes, definitely. And to a certain degree, the same thing can be said about making videos. I've had to spend hours going through and editing footage, and that is definitely not fun.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You just have to do boring things to complete what you're working on. Like, you do fun things and you do boring things. It's you have to do both, unfortunately.
Oh yes, it's a trade-off. And sort of going off topic, but are there any other games outside the Elder Scrolls series that you enjoy playing? And if so, what do you like about them?
I play a lot of games. I especially like The Witcher and the Gothic series, like I mentioned earlier. I very much enjoy RPGs, both fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. And those series are just amazing. And play a lot of strategy as well, like Civilization and Total War, especially the older Total War, like Rome and Medieval 2. And Europa Universalis, which is a great game that I play way too much. So yeah, I play a lot of games. I like playing new games, mixing it up a little bit.
Oh yeah, strategy games like Civilization are great, but unfortunately I like to keep my distance from them because they can be just a bit too addicting sometimes.
Yeah, too addicting, and when you're first addicted to those games, it takes so much time. Like, it's not like you sit there for an hour and do a quest or something like in an RPG. Just you sit there for hours upon hours, and when you're done for the day, you think over, what have I done now? Like, just built a city or gone to war or something like that. It's so time consuming, and like, you have fun when you play it, but afterwards just think that it was so much wasted time.
Oh yes, like 12 hours later you finally conquered the Assyrian Empire, and the game's not even over yet.
Yeah, it's so time consuming. Like, you spend days on the same campaign, and yeah, it's fun, but I should rather do something else. But I like playing games, so I do it.
Oh yes, kind of a guilty pleasure, so to speak. Now, if you could mod one other game that perhaps doesn't support mods, what would it be?
I don't know, really. I haven't dabbled much in the Europa Universalis modding community, but I don't think it's very much supported, and I would love to make Tamriel in that game, so you can have like war between all the provinces and stuff like that. I know there's a mod for Civilization for that, and I think there was a Total War mod that was started as well. But Europa Universalis is just, in my opinion, a better game, and I would love to have Tamriel in that game.
Now, sort of wrapping up our modding questions, is there any particular mod you're most happy / proud of out of the ones you've released so far?
It's gotta be Kvatch Rebuilt. It's just such a grand mod, and yeah, it's the one I'm most proud of, even though I wasn't part of the team when it first started, but I think I've touched every aspect of the mod. I've improved or fixed every aspect of the mod, so yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Now, on a sort of similar note, do you have a mod that hasn't received enough acclaim as you think it should have? And if so, which one and why?
I wouldn't say so. I think all of the mods I've made have gotten the attention they deserve. If it gets the attention it gets is the attention it deserves, I think. But yeah, I haven't made that like big revolutionary mods, so yeah, it has gotten the attention that it deserves, all of them.
Alright, sort of moving on to our final questions. What do you think about the other Elder Scrolls games outside of Oblivion, like Morrowind, Skyrim, and the Elder Scrolls Online?
Morrowind is my favorite, by far. It's just the best Elder Scrolls game, in my opinion, with Oblivion coming second and Skyrim third. It may be that if I had played Skyrim and Oblivion at the same time in my life, I would have picked Skyrim, but I was younger when I started playing Oblivion and haven't really played it in lately, so it may be that I was just younger when I played it. But yeah, apart from that, Arena and Daggerfall was great games. Red Guard especially was, even though it was a short game, it was fantastic. And I played Elder Scrolls Online, but it was a bit too much MMO for me. I'm tired of MMO. I played World of Warcraft for 5 years, and that was enough for me. But it had great storyline and some really great quests, so it could have been a great game if it had been more Elder Scrolls and less MMO, I think.
They do seem to be trying to go the more Elder Scrolls route these days. I mean, they added in that justice system where you can commit crimes in cities, and I think they may have added in NPC murdering or something to that respect to the Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, so they did. They have added stuff like that, but I think the core game is too much MMO, so that kind of throws me off a little bit because of my history with MMOs. I still enjoy MMOs. I actually play The Secret World right now, which is a Funcom made game, which is a company in Norway, where I'm from, or where I live. So play that, but it's more story-based, which is what I enjoy, so it's kind of different. But that's my biggest issue with online, or Elder Scrolls Online, that it's too much MMO compared to what they were saying that it would be. So they kind of said that it would be very much an Elder Scrolls game, but didn't turn out to be that.
Oh yeah, and I think that's a pretty common complaint. And anyway, is there any advice you'd like to give to budding new Oblivion modders out there looking to release their first mod?
Make your mod. Make the mod you want to make and have a passion for making. Just make it however you want to make it and release it and see where it goes from there. You look at the feedback you get, and yeah, just do it. Like Shia LaBeouf says, just do it.
Finally, is there anyone in the community you'd like to give a shout out to?
There's so many. I want to give a shout out to the entire community. But if I have to pick some, it would be like Arthmore and Orients and Shade Me for making Oblivion modding so much easier. And well, Dark One for making the Nexus has been a great resource for the Elder Scrolls modding for so many years. And yeah, just a shout out to the community. Continue to work on mods and give feedback and work together.
Well, that pretty much wraps up all the questions I have for you, so thanks again for agreeing to do this interview, and hopefully this will be the first of many more interviews in our Oblivion Modding interview cycle.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great, and I hope we'll see a lot more interviews. Looking forward to it.